Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Monday Night Training. My name is Russell Fish, and tonight I decided to do something a little different by blending in some notes from Bloemfontein, from the Eagle Team Convention, with the topics that I was supposed to talk about tonight. And so instead of going into our usual pamphlets and brochures and stuff, or videos and things like that, to get the content and research, I actually took straight from my notes. Something I'll be speaking about a lot more in the coming months is using artificial intelligence to actually do that for you. And what I want to show you just quickly is what my handwriting looks like from my scribbling notes in Bloemfontein. I'll move to like page 4 or 5 when my hand was already tired. And my blurry thing is not really helping me to show you properly. There we go. I don't know if you can make out how scribbly that is. And from that notes AI was able to actually transcribe all of my notes. Like it was 7 pages that I basically took. So I need to show you guys how to do that in the coming weeks and months, because in a year's time or so everybody's going to be doing it, and by then we want to already be on to the next big thing. So moving on to the topic of today, or this evening, we've got nutrition, we've got dreams, and then we've got the 6x2x2 structure. And all of the notes, as I say, is coming from the speakers in Bloemfontein. I did use AI to transcribe it, so if there's anything weird on the screen, I'll just correct it verbally. I haven't had time to proofread this presentation. Our first topic is nutrition, and you can see that it says what's actually reaching your cells and why it matters more than ever. And so the first point there is, and I need to try and get out of the way of the words here. Maybe I'll just move to content only while we're going through the slides. There we go. And it says diet versus nutrition. The speaker's point there was that what you put in your mouth is your diet, and what actually reaches your cells is your nutrition. And they're not the same thing. You can eat all day and still be undernourished. We know that 3N is the first product we talk to anybody about because of cellular nutrition. And if you don't know what that means, make a note of asking your upline, because it's one of the most crucial elements of our business, really, when we speak about nutrition. There's little pictures you can draw, and it's quite easy to learn to do it. We won't go into that tonight in too much detail, though. We'll stick to the theory side of it. So diet is what you eat, and nutrition is what reaches your cells. Right? Number 2 is the soil problem. Now, if you haven't heard yet, if you're quite new in the business, this is one of the biggest differences and selling points of the Neolife business, is that our products are non-GMO. And for those of you that got Louis' book in Bloom, and you saw one of the articles there where they had this product in America that said non-GMO, and they tested it and found it was 100% GMO. And they won the court battle because they said it was actually the packaging that's non-GMO. Just ridiculous what's going on out there in the world. And so we go back to, coming full circle back to the soil problem then, and saying that years of chemical fertilizer have depleted soil quality. So things like petroleum-based fertilizers have basically made our soil such bad quality. You don't really want to buy fertilizer from the shop these days. You need to be really careful where you buy your fertilizer if you're growing your own crop, for example. Even if you're just doing like your home garden and growing your own fruit and veg. One of the things that I make sure I do from my side with my garden is to have my own compost bin going at all times. So whenever I have my garden cut, whenever I have any trees or leaves or whatever pruned and things like that, I make sure that gets added in to my compost bays. And even my neighbor, I've asked my neighbor if he can please, because I noticed they were cutting his grass one day. A whole company came in and cut his grass at the back, and off they went with the stuff. I actually asked him if they wouldn't mind just dumping it over the wall into my compost bay, which they do as well. So I basically am developing my own compost, and it lowers the need to have to fertilize constantly as well. So going back to the GMO crops, they say they are engineered to resist pests, not to deliver nutrients. So there is a plus side to the GMO thing, right? The genetically modified organisms. But the downside for sort of downplays the upside. It really makes it pointless because we don't know what harm it really does. We don't know the totality of the harm it does to our bodies at the end of the day. And the food itself isn't even carrying what it used to. The amount of nutrition in the food, because of the bad quality of the soil, the amount of nutrition in the food is actually so poor now compared to, let's say, 20, 30 years ago. It's just getting worse and worse. And at the bottom, you can see that it says that your food isn't as nutritious as it used to be, even when it looks the same. Now, point number 3 is that you can't supplement a bad lifestyle. I think many of us are guilty of this. I'm definitely one that's often guilty of this. Supplements complete a good foundation, but they don't fix a bad one. So, and no product replaces the basics of a healthy diet and lifestyle. So, I mean, what do you think about when you talk about lifestyle and diet, a healthy diet? So you look at the healthy food pyramid, and you look at the fact that we've got exercise as one of the biggest the biggest bar on that pyramid. If you look at that diagram, if you haven't seen the diagram, that's another good point to note down. And also, just while I'm saying that, it made me remember a point of last night's training in the other team. It just also came to mind last night that when you are attending any training, make notes. Like, it doesn't make sense that you are attending a training and you're just listening like it's a movie. Right? You need to be making notes, and one of the main notes that I've found has become the most valuable for me personally, going to a Bloemfontein or even attending online training, I don't need to write down verbatim what the speaker is saying. Right? That is sort of an old school method that, unless you can write really fast and neatly, because half the time I can't even read. I'm happy that I can read my handwriting, but try to write down how the information impacted you. Try to write down things like questions that came up in your mind when you heard the information. Because once you understand the information, you kind of already know that. So you can make a brief note of, what was important and interesting to you. But more importantly is how did it change your thinking? Did you get an idea for your business or for how you might, different product you might try or something? I always found that to be very interesting. I always made a little light bulb, and I drew a big box next to my notes, and I'd basically make a note of the thought that I had after I heard the training. So there's a lot of techniques you can come up with, and I'm sure other people have come up with other techniques also over the years to help them enhance the information they've gotten through training. So going back to the point here, supplements complete a good foundation, but they don't fix a bad one. No product replaces the basics of a healthy diet and lifestyle. So why I was mentioning make notes is, one of the main notes is write down the questions you have or something that you need to look into a bit further. If you like I mentioned earlier, if you don't know about 3NN and the pictures you can draw, Drew McDermott does a good training on that. You can go and look at the 3NN brochure and learn how to do those little things, the little diagrams. Or with a healthy diet and lifestyle, do you know what the healthy eating pyramid is? Because it's in your flip chart booklet as well, all of the information I'm talking about now. So to end off, just to reiterate, you can't supplement a bad diet, you can't supplement a bad lifestyle. So you need to start at the bottom. I'm going to actually pause there. I don't know if Coulson is able to share with us right now. If you are able to call some, I'm just gonna make you a co-host quickly. There we go. And if you at any point you can just jump in here. Basically, Coulson had an experience with trying to understand this concept of you can't supplement a bad diet and you can't supplement a bad lifestyle, to a point where she was almost negative about the products in the business. If she is able to, at some point, she'll share that story with us tonight. But it's a very interesting story and something that's useful for, moving forward with prospects as well. They might be in the same position and you don't even know, and she might be able to share some things that will help to highlight that they are in that space. And then point number 4 is start with core, then go targeted. So what is core nutrition? again, all of these notes that I'm giving you guys now is just stuff I heard at Bloemfontein, right? This is not from any other source. So it's from those speakers at Bloemfontein. And they said that everyone needs the same foundation first. The core nutrition, essentially, it starts with the shake and the Pro Vitality. Inside the Pro Vitality, of course, we've got the multivitamin, we've got the 3 in, we've got carotenoids, and we've got the omega. So we've got a very big, I think, I can't remember who it was that said it, but I think it's like something like 57 or 58 of the nutrients, or 59 or something that the human body needs, something to that effect. So you're getting like basically all the nutrients your body needs in just those two products. And then once that's in place, that is sort of your, I'm gonna call it your maintenance products. Then you go into your targeted solutions to address specific needs. You have issues with your eyes, you go into the carotenoids. You have issues with inflammation, you go into things like your omega-3s and up your dosage of that and those kind of things. So core first, then targeted, and that's the order that we should be focusing on. And then point number 5 here was a change for the better starts with a choice. Now the decision happens in the mind before it happens on the plate. And real change in nutrition starts with a choice, not a product. I think this is maybe something that you can reflect on, that I won't try to add too much meat to this one, but reflect on this and how it applies to you. That real change in nutrition starts with a choice, not a product. A change for the better starts with a change in your mind. It is a choice. For me, if I were to reflect on that, I would say that before I look at the product, I need to decide in which way I want to become healthy, I suppose. Like, for example, I need to lose some weight. So I need to commit to losing weight. As the previous slide said, I need to start with my lifestyle, my diet, and then, of course, look at the products that are going to enhance that, the benefits that I want to get. But it all starts with that commitment. And so my reflection on the information I see here is that if it starts with a choice and it starts in the mind, then it starts with a commitment. It's maybe something interesting we can discuss later. So here's a discussion point, and I'm gonna just change the setting here so everybody can unmute. If I can just find where that setting is. That would be lovely. But let me read out the note first. And it says that think of one thing you regularly buy or use at home. Is it feeding your cells or just filling your mouth? I wonder if I'm going to actually just pick on a few people rather. Let's go with the people that I want to pick on are disappearing as I'm about to click on them. Let's see. I'm gonna pick on Johnny. Let's make him a co-host as well. Everybody's gonna be a co-host by the end of this meeting. Johnny, if you can unmute yourself, and what is something that maybe comes to mind when you look at this discussion point? Think of one thing you regularly buy or use at home. Is it feeding your cells or just filling your mouth? You're welcome to comment on any of the slides that I've done before this as well.
Hi, good evening, everyone. For me, I don't go without my breakfast pack. That's your Pro Vitality and the shake. That is my go-to every morning, because I know that sustains me through the day. Even when I go to work, food that I eat at work, I only eat Provitas. I don't eat that much because of the filling nature of this breakfast pack, and I know that it nourishes my cells. So that is the go-to. Since I started it, I don't stay without it. And then, of course, from there I fill up with other supplements that are targeted for my needs. Yes.
Speaking to that slide, basically, that's awesome. Thanks a lot for that, Johnny. Okay, let's move on to the next section then. If you guys do have any other things that you want to talk about, put it in the chat so long, and I'll come back to that as soon as I get a chance. So the topic number 2 we're going to speak about tonight is dreams. From a picture on a chart to a person that you're becoming. And that person you're becoming is as we're going to see in the notes later on, is probably one of the more important things that we should consider. I just want to quickly, right, let's look at the slide on its own. So first off, dreamers versus visionaries. They say that a dream on paper is just a wish. The moment you start working on it daily, it becomes real. And tonight we're not talking about dreaming, we're talking about becoming visionaries. So they say that dreamers talk about goals and visionaries work on them daily. These two sentences really, or this concept really impacted me in Bloemfontein, because doing the amount of training that I do, I obviously talk about things a lot. But how many of those things am I actually doing on daily? And so I think maybe subconsciously this is one of the things that's really fired me up from Bloemfontein this year. And for some reason there was something about Bloemfontein this year that just did that for me. It sort of removed a lot of excuses from my subconscious, I would say. Let's look at the next slide, saying daily decisions build the dream. Success isn't one big leap, it's hundreds of small consistent actions. And the dream chart is the destination. And your daily decisions are the vehicle that gets you there. That's quite deep as well. So success is built on hundreds of small, consistent daily actions. I think what really resonates with me on this slide, and something that I was also always talking about when we did training on dreams, is, it was actually on the self-talk, sorry, is that when you do a self-talk, you oftentimes think of it as something that maybe gets you up in the morning, or something that when you need to build up your motivation, your excitement before making a call, or before doing something, or going out there, before maybe starting training or whatever, you think of it as this macro thing, this big thing that you've got to do before doing a big thing. Like you've got to talk yourself into the next 3 hours. But sometimes I think that those little daily actions can actually move down to a thought, and controlling a thought in a specific second, where you're almost at a crossroads or a fork in the road, and you've got to decide, I'm either going to do it or I'm not. Another thing came up last night that fits in with this is Rashida was saying that she's just eliminated all fear of speaking to people. Some things happened recently that's just given her this power that we all sort of crave. And before, and I'm sure it happens to all of us, because it happened to me as well. You are maybe in a mall and you see someone, you sort of make eye contact, and then you think to yourself, should I talk to them or shouldn't I? Like, why are you having that conversation and wasting time? Because in the time that you're doing that, you could have already started the conversation. So it's something very interesting that you said, and I think it fits nicely in here in a sort of unconventional way. Point number 3 under dreams is become more. They say that people chase the picture on the chart, but the real prize is who you become while chasing it. The discipline, the confidence, and the person who shows up every day. I don't know how many of you listened to Les Brown, but he said something similar to this, is even if you don't get the dream, you become, but the person you become in chasing the dream, because you become so confident, so competent in the arena of life, that you can decide, okay, you know what, I'm not even interested in that dream anymore. You've almost outgrown the dream. I don't know if you guys have felt that about your dream chart before. There's a dream on there that you're like, I don't even know why I wanted that. It sounds so superficial and maybe, what is the other word? Materialistic. I actually want something much higher than that. And you realize that you outgrew the dream because you worked on yourself and your consistency and all the rest. So they say the real reward is the person you become, not just the money earned. Point number four is your thoughts are seeds and your words plant them. I think this was something that Charlie said. I don't know how many of you caught it at Bloom, but I wrote it down. I actually didn't have my book at the time, and I wrote it on WhatsApp in a message to myself. Your thoughts are seeds and your words plant them. He said it so quickly in what he was saying that day, but I made a point of putting it in a place that sort of stood out to me. And he said, how you talk about your dream either waters it or starves it. If you speak doubt over your dream chart, then you're planting the wrong seed. Right? So your thoughts are seeds, but it's with your words that you plant them. Something very interesting that I never heard said at Bloom before in any of our trainings. Point number 5 is plant and harvest. It says consistency now, harvest later. And the dream chart doesn't move every week, and that's normal. Don't abandon it a month or two just because nothing looks different yet. It says they plant, water, and then in time take the fruit. So let's go to another discussion point then and see. It says when you talk about your dream chart to someone else, are your words planting it or starving it? And I think in other words you could say, are you positive about it or are you negative about it? Maybe not even what you're saying to the other person, but internally, do you actually believe that you're going to get it? I think that self-belief and the belief in what you want is very important as well. Let me just see, allowed to unmute themselves. I found the thing so I don't have to make everybody a co-host. Let's see who is at Bloom that I can ask. Lizette, you're one of our experts at the dream chart. I think it's only fitting to ask you to come in at this point. Any of the slides that you want to comment on or speak to this particular discussion point when you talk about dream chart to someone else, are you what's planting it or starving it? I hope I didn't catch Lizette while she was doing the dishes or something. Give her a chance to dry her hands.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
This is Keith here from Bloemfontein.
Hi, Keith.
Hi. Thanks so far. I'm enjoying this. Thank you very much. It reminds me of Charlie's original presentations, which we all learned right from the beginning when we learned how to do presentations. And right on the top, when he spoke about dreams, under the dreams, it was always what do you want to do, go, or become. And that I've always remembered that. And then we during the presentation, one would comment a few things on, where do you want to go, what do you want to do, or what do you want to become. One can expand it as well. But what you're saying now reminds me of I went to my grandson's concert the other day, and they had Alice in Wonderland. And Alice was walking. Now, this wasn't part of the concert, but I thought they might bring it in. But I remember the story about Alice. Alice is walking down the road, and she came to a fork in the road. And then there was a cat in the tree. And then she said something like, she acknowledged the cat, and where do these two roads go to? So the cat said to her, where do you want to go? So she said, no, she doesn't know where she wants to go. And then the cat said to her, well, any one of the roads will do. And that is so important that it's a lesson I've always learned about that. And if you haven't got direction of where we're going to, and it's always a challenge, and eventually we won't get to that destination that we want to get to. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Keith. Let's just move the spotlight. So I'm going to move on to the next topic then, and then we can open for if there's any more comments and questions. So topic number 3 is structure. I know I've gone through these slides quite fast. I'll be sure to share everything with everybody after the training. That will be the recording as well as the presentation. And topic 3 being structure, going deep and wide. And of course, Charlie was the one that went really deep and wide into this topic itself. Building a business that survives you. Speaks to building something that's bigger than ourselves, I suppose. I'm just going to remove my picture out of the way so you guys can see the slides. And point number 1 is you don't make the fire at the top. This concept really helped me to understand the going deep thing and the structure. For years, Charlie has been saying, you know, if you want to make it to acres, you must have X, Y, and Z PV and this and that, but you must have a solid structure, and they'll check the structure before you qualify to go to acres. And I was really struggling with this word of structure, and also there's another word, I'll get to it eventually. And this sort of analogy really hit home for me. It says the big dream doesn't ignite itself. It gets lit by what's happening deep in the team, person by person, conversation by conversation at the bottom. And then to reiterate, you don't make a fire at the top, you make the fire at the bottom. Now, if you think about it from a perspective of how the compensation plan works, what he was saying there is that if you start to see the people beneath you growing faster than you are, it should do two things for you. One, it should inspire you into action, because as a leader of your team, you should be at least leading by example and doing it the same, if not more than your team. But the other thing, it should almost scare you and excite you at the same time, because if those people do grow to a certain level, their PV will remain their own and you won't even get from their PV anymore. So those kind of things are interesting when you're sort of starting out and building the team. And also, obviously, when you are getting to the higher tiers as well, or the higher steps. Very interesting concept there. And then something that Hazel's been drilling through us via Charlie, or from Charlie's point as well for years now, is I think it was something that Jerry Brasfield actually said at an event, if I'm not mistaken. I wasn't at that event. Point number 2 was work through the doors and go down the line. The concept of going through the doors. And it says here, don't stop at the first layer you personally sponsor. Help them sponsor, help their people sponsor. And that continuous push downward is what deep actually means. And of course, if we do the 6x2x2 plan, especially if you've drawn it over and over and over and over before, you understand what that means of helping these guys go and start up those people and so on. So just to reiterate again, work through the doors and go down the line. And the next one is, why does your insurance policy? So he said that deep is, okay, we'll get to that. Why does your insurance policy? So if you're only deep through 1 or 2 legs, a single person stopping, or illness or life event or simple burnout can take your business with him. Going wide means no one person's PV is load bearing. It says there, wide is profit, deep is security. And then point number 4 is, depth is your time proofing. So depth means the team grows itself without needing you personally in every conversation. This is what lets your business survive, you being busy or on shift or away. A deep team doesn't need you in every conversation to keep growing. And then the final point here is not a one-way street. Growth has to flow in both directions. And I think there's a real culture in the near life community about this, where most of our leaders put us on stage, they put us on a place where we need to sort of speak to people, and it forces us to grow. But in doing so, they also learn a lot from us. So the growth flows in both directions. So you're building your steps up while your team builds theirs. A structure that only feeds the top eventually starves itself. And luckily our structural compensation plan doesn't work that way. So growth isn't a one-way street. If they grow, you grow. So our final discussion point now, and we can go back to any of the slides if you guys have any questions or comments to make about them. But if your strongest leg stopped producing PV tomorrow, would your business survive? Why or why not? I'm going to open the floor then to any comments for the presentation so far. It's been about 30 minutes. I wonder if Kulsum is able to share with us yet. Kulsum, are you able to share on the call tonight? I don't have my WhatsApp open here to double check what she might have said. Nothing from Kulsum. Nope, nothing from Kulsum. Okay. In that case, if there's no comments, let's go to the final slide and no, let's skip that slide. That's about something else. So if I look at some of the points that were put on a list here for me, I think that it might be useful. I said earlier on to make notes whenever you're doing training and to write down your questions, speak to your uplines about them, to make sure that you take note of how the information impacts you and any thoughts that you have. There's that quote about education, that it's also mainly about bringing the information out of you, the information that's already there, that just to bring it to light in your own mind and own awareness. But maybe come up with one thing that you've learned tonight that you can apply to your own business. Maybe it's something, a training topic that you can apply to your team. And I'm going to hand over then to Andy to close for us, and maybe he wants to do a Q&A if there's time on any of the topics that we've spoken about tonight. Andy, I hope I've covered most of the topics that I was supposed to tonight.
Yeah, Russell, I think you've done an excellent job once more. Well done. It's really great. Russell put so much effort into it, guys, and I think that what he's given is a synopsis of what we saw in Bloemfontein, what we experienced, and a lot of the points you made just bring back snap points that I didn't take notes on. It was really, really good. I think that there's certain fundamentals. So the one fundamental I want to mention with the 62 plan is that if you want to build a business, you have to be able to draw that 622, just those graphics, and need to have a story around those graphics. We talk about it as if everyone knows it, but how many are actually drawing it when you see a downline, when you see a prospect? This is critical because that is our business. That is the structure of our business. That's what it's all about. And then people are going to say, oh, this is a pyramid. You need to have those answers. You need to be able to articulate your business. You need to, in 60 seconds, be able to just to say, draw the circles, and in 5-10 minutes, explain a business plan. When you break that barrier and you start doing a mini presentation of the business, your business will accelerate and you'll start building downlines and things going. The other critical factor that Russell mentioned over here in terms of business building is that building the depth. If I can tell you, Louis Smith is a wonderful downline for me. He's got people 20 and 30 deep in his organization. Folks, that's a powerful depth. And we talk about depth is your security. If one falls out, so what? And if the one at number 20 decides to take off like a crazy and go diamond, how many? He's motivated 19 people above him. And it's the old story there too, is the depth is such an important ideal in this program. Because if you go to a high-rise building and you do your shopping, well, you go to the bank, and the bank's to the bottom floor. And they say, whoa, there's a big fire at the top. You finish your banking and you go outside, and curiously, you look up and you see what's going on up there. That's exactly how our business works. Because when you get onto the 20th floor and you get out the lift, and they tell you, whoa, the bank is on fire and there's a huge fire coming up, guess what? They've got your attention. And that's exactly the same thing here. So when you can light a fire deep down in the organization, it reverberates and it affects a whole lot of other people coming up. So very important that you build depth in your organization. Sure, the 3 and 30s and whatever are wonderful, but it's not a case of just getting people in. It's getting people cemented, making a profit, and then moving on down underneath them so they can magnify that profit. Okay. Finally, Russell, you started off so well with taking the whole message of Dr. Eseza Nambasi, who did a wonderful talk in Bloemfontein on nutrition and why we're needing supplementation and all the points that Russell mentioned, which is a summary of her talk. Well, the good news is Thursday evening, Dr. Nambasi will be on our call, and we'll put out the flyer soon that'll highlight that she will be doing a similar talk for you. So, Vibrant Living by Dr. Eseza Nambasi coming to you on Thursday. So, you can invite as many guests as you like, and I'm sure that they'll all love and they'll have their questions for Dr. Nambasi as well. Dr. Nambasi, just by the way, retired from being a full-time medical doctor and in full-time practice to go full-time into talking nutrition, primarily because she realized that coming from a nutritional perspective, where we're helping the body fortify itself to push back its own diseases, she would rather be in that space than just administering drugs to people. So that's the good news. So from there, and I think in terms of taking, we are a little early tonight. And if there's anyone who'd like to comment, let's hear some comments on Bloemfontein. Maybe there are some people just on the overall perspective of Bloemfontein before we wrap up tonight. A lot of people weren't at Bloem, so it's wonderful to hear your experiences. Oh man, we're quiet tonight, aren't we? Okay.
Andy.
Yes, Keith.
Yeah, Keith. Okay, Andy. The Sunday morning, even last year and again this year, what was important was the young people, and I think I've been in this business for quite a number of years, but now I think that we are at fault, if I can put it that way. Perhaps you can comment on this as well. Perhaps we are at fault if we're not getting enough young people into our business. There is a major unemployment in South Africa, and I think we have got a fantastic business that we can offer young people. I don't know, Andy, would you like to comment on how you feel about the importance of getting young people into the business?
Thanks, Keith. That's a very, very good point. You know that it's a fact that your 25 to 35-year-old group is your ideal group for this kind of business. They're starting out in life. They've got energy, unbound, got huge amounts of energy, and as such, and they've got dreams. They have got big dreams. And what happens after 35, the kids are there, the houses, you've got the house debt, you've got the car debt, you've got all the other things, and people just get so drawn down, and they start forgetting how to dream. They stop believing that they can even dream. And that's why I talk about in my presentation now these aha moments where, yes, I've done it. The 25 to 35-year-olds, they know that they're doing that all the time, regardless of what Gen Z or whatever gen they are. That age group are starting out in life with great vision and anticipation and expectancy to get going. So when you show them a business that they can really go along and you help them make some money fast, they will accelerate and go. And we need definitely to be looking at that market with huge intent. It's happening in the rest of Africa, just South Africa. And Botswana. I think we've got to look at you as well. We're going to get going with our younger people. Thanks, Keith. Anyone else? I see Colleen, you put your camera on. Do you want to say something? Don't have to take the camera off. All right. We've learned a lot tonight. a lot about the nutrition and the importance, the foundation stone of our whole food nutritional base. That nutrition's not the to take the place of lifestyle or changed lifestyle or changed diet. Those are all critical components of the whole. And our nutrition goes just to bridge the gaps of any dietary program. So it's important that we get that right. We've learned tonight about the dream. We learned about how important it is for us to dream and to talk that dream into existence, not to talk negative, but to talk positive about the dream. You know, Charlie has always had the situation where you say, no matter what you say to him, he'll say, that's good. And you think, excuse me, Charlie, that's not good. It's good. You then, because that forces you to find one or two things as to why it is good. And then you start talking up instead of talking down. You can talk yourself right out of life just by the words that you say to yourself. And don't forget, the biggest conversation is the conversation happening between your two ears. That one goes on all day long. So you got to be so careful about how you guard and how you speak to yourself, first of all, and then to other people as well. Then you can start getting your dreams, start creating your aha moments. You have got a vehicle, you've got a platform to launch you to where you want to be. Go for that and do that and use and master the 622 plan. Go out and draw it tonight. It's a simple thing. It's like an insect with 6 legs, and then it's got a couple more legs and a couple more things. Develop a story around that, just a 5-10 minute story, and then go and practice on your spouse, go practice on the kids, go practice on the cat, on the dog tonight. And so by tomorrow morning, you then go practice on someone at work. Just say, listen, I just want to show you this thing. What do you think about it? Go and practice it, because the more you draw that plan, the quicker your business will grow. Folks, we are sitting on an incredible opportunity in Southern Africa. They always say when less than 1/2 of 1% of the population are involved in a business like this, our network marketing business, it is a ground floor opportunity. We have to lift our vision to see how big this is and how much of an impact that we can make on the whole of South Africa. It's in your hands. Don't go to sleep with this thing. Work it, make it happen. God bless you. See you Thursday. Thanks, Russell.
Awesome. Thank you very much, everybody.